2021 Waldport City Council meeting to order. And the first thing we need to do is swear in the new council and mayor.
Okay, if you'd like, all three of you can rise. I'll just kind of do it together and you can say your own name.
Oh.
Okay. So I, state your name.
I, Greg Holland.
You don't
Done?
need to, you
Oh,
don't need to.
okay.
Good.
Oh, I thought you said I had.
You've been sworn in.
I wanted to do it again.
Do solemnly swear
Do
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the
United States of America,
of
the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the City Charter of the City of Waldport,
and the
City
City
Charter of the City of Waldport,
and the laws thereof.
and the laws thereof,
I will faithfully and honorably
and will faithfully and honorably
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of
of the office of
Mayor,
City
City
Council,
Councilor,
Counselor.
a position to which I have been elected
a position to which I have been elected
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I need your
Signature.
signature there.
Okay.
There.
I got it. Thanks.
Nope, I feel good.
Okay,
Perhaps I helped you.
you do the work. I do the easy stuff. It's-
Okay, next we have the roll call.
Counselor Townsend,
Here?
Counselor Morris,
Here?
Counselor Dunn,
Here?
Counselor Woodruff,
Here.
Mayor Holland,
Here.
quorum is present.
Okay, then we have the minutes of the December 22nd, 2020 City Council meeting.
They looked good to me. I'll go ahead and approve them.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those, any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, next we have public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to step forward to the podium and state their name and city of residence and make any comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on. We're ready to talk about the discussion items on the agenda. And I guess we'll start with the COVID. There's no really action items, it's just discussion. I did note that in the newspaper, we're staying in the high category, not moving back into the
That is
extreme.
very surprising, but yes, we are very close.
Yes, very close. Anything else we need to discuss that in that category?
Really, the kind of, we're ongoing the same precautions that we have been, which is why we've got kind of limited audience space. Now with the new council, we have a little bit less space to try to keep everybody at arm's distance. So I do apologize that, we are still struggling with seating at these meetings. We are working very hard to move to the new council chambers, which may possibly give us more space, but it will also have the ability to do some broadcast technologies that might help us out with that as well.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question about the curbside service for the library. Are you referring to the bank drive-through window, or is there something else? I don't,
They're actually curbside at the library.
okay.
They are calling us or emailing us, and then we get their things ready, and they come to the porch
Oh,
at the
okay,
library. And
all right.
Then we give them to them
Very good.
I've seen it happening in the
Do you want to
rain.
introduce yourself? Do you want to?
I'm Sue Bennett, the director of the library, for those new people, one person, I guess, that doesn't know.
So,
All right, good to see you.
Great. If there's no objection, I'd like to move up item G, recognition of vacancy on the council. And it's in your packet on page they're not numbered, actually.
The fourth page from the end on the back.
There we go. Mine are all sticking together here. Let's see. As you're all aware, of course, we lost Mark, and it's hard, but we really probably should fill his empty seat, or talk about filling his empty seat, what we want to do with his seat. If we want to move forward, and as it says in here, there's probably three options. We can appoint someone to fill his seat, declare a period for applications of interest, or just leave the seat empty
Until May.
until May, which would be the next special election. But anyway, if we appoint someone, they're going to have to stand for election in May anyway. That would be what would happen anyway. Some of us had thought, since the election was just so close, and since Rick Booth lost by a handful of votes, that maybe we should think about appointing him to the seat. It's just fair play, because, I mean, I never seen a city council election so close. So we were just thinking about putting that out there and just see what the council thought about doing that.
I think it's a great idea.
I agree.
How does everyone feel that way then?
I think it's important to fill the seat, since there are three of us who are new, and that would be a fourth, and we'd all get the same level of orientation quickly, and it would help the staff, I think, and it would probably help the council too, to have somebody seated as soon as we can.
Okay, would anybody object to we fill the seat immediately, like right now?
Given the consensus I see, I make a motion that we fill the seat with Rick Booth and administer him the oath and seat him.
Okay.
Second.
I second that.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
It was to appoint Mr. Booth as Councilman Booth, which has now passed. It's to appoint Rick to
Assuming
the
he will
council.
accept.
Oh, yeah, I will accept.
I'll be right back, I'm gonna go run out there.
So Rick, you can actually
Yeah, you can actually
take the
sit.
seat. We are set up for 7,
Of course, we didn't tell Eric that, but.
but you know, it's,
Eric's looked at the back of my head for many times. Nothing that he doesn't already know about.
Does Rita need to swear him in immediately?
that's
Yeah.
what she's getting in
That's what she's getting
the
the thing.
paperwork right
She
now.
wants to get the stuff.
Well, that will be quite useful, thank you, because we are going to do, really at the goal workshops and whatnot that are planned, if you approve, we're going to do some orientation to the council that would be useful.
Okay. I
Richard Booth,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the city charter of the city of Waldport,
and the city charter of the city of Waldport,
and the laws thereof.
and the laws thereof,
I will faithfully and honorably
and faithfully and honorably
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of city councilor,
of the office of city councilor,
a position to which I have been appointed
to a position that I have been appointed
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. I don't have a name tag for you.
I'll sign it with my real name, but I'll be appreciative with the name that it would be Rick Booth.
Okay.
I have my name tag. just a comment about the election. Jamie and I, we didn't even know each other before this all started. We're 5 votes apart. I think we, the right people all voted.
So, well, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. Okay, next in order would be the museum establishment ordinance. Any comments on that, Dan?
Yeah, so there are 2 items in this agenda item, actually. The first is there is an ORS that is escaping me right now, but it's ORS 358310 to ORS 358405. This essentially is guidance from the state in specifically what is required when a museum is owned by the city. So there is a process, and it really should be said, this mirrors the library almost identically. So the same sort of operations, same sort of control, same sort of oversight that we're about to create with the museum exists in the library currently. So in accordance with that, we've prepared an ordinance for adoption that formalizes the arrangement with the museum. We have signed an agreement with the museum, and we have already hired the museum staff as city staff and as of January 1st. But this creates a museum board, which by agreement right now, we've said that upon creation, the members of the existing Historical Society and the museum board that exists right now will be offered seats. If they choose to decline, then we will have more open seats to fill. But that's the first part of this process is just formalizing that arrangement. Right now, I've actually assigned our esteemed city recorder and a former board member on the museum as the supervisor for the museum staff and for the oversight of the museum. That she's very familiar with the operations, and so that'll, I think, be a good transition. And then the second piece, and this is for all of you council members, there are a number of boards, districts, commissions, etc., that by virtue of being on the Waldport Council, we have representation at. These can be fairly minor in terms of participation, or they can be pretty significant. I was, for years, when I was on the council, I was on first the board and then the executive board for the Council of Governments. And in the end, I was the vice chair when their staff resumed, and so Mayor Traber of Corvallis and myself were actually the interim executive directors for a period of about 5 months while we hired a new executive director. So it can materialize into quite a bit of work. And so that's, I'm not trying to scare anybody away, but I do want people to go in kind of with their eyes open. And so we've made a list of all the different boards and seats that Waldport either sends a member to or actually sits on the board. And I then leave it to you to figure out who wants to do what.
Before we go into that, we have to elect a council president, and that's usually determined by seniority on the senior city council member, and that's Greg Dunn this year, and I would like to nominate him to be the council. He basically serves if the mayor's out of town or he runs the meeting and other duties that he may be assigned. So I would like to nominate Greg Dunn to be the council president this year, this term.
I would second that.
Okay. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. For Greg.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, Greg. Glad to have you on board, and I appreciate it. Okay, now, all right, let's go down this long list here. Okay.
Getting longer, isn't it?
I know. It looks, I can't believe this list we have.
I tried to be very thorough in making sure we didn't forget. Often we forget an entity or agency, and sometime later we'll remember and assign some. So I did try to go through the past years of meetings and figure out who's supposed to be,
we do have
either assigned to or what's available.
We do have a problem with the Economic Development Alliance. Carrie is on the board. Secretary Kemp, and he swears he's not representing Waldport, and he refuses to leave.
That's, you know,
And so there's no vacancies on the board, so they refuse to seat me.
okay, well, I'll have a conversation. I'll have a conversation. I'll have a conversation.
But he swears he's not representing Waldport. So but they haven't met all year anyway, so it hasn't
Yeah, it
mattered.
hasn't been an issue.
So anyway, I'll just let you know about that one. That's an interesting one. Okay, Cascade West Council of Government Board. I was interested in that one only because I've just started meeting with them. I met with them in my first meeting in December, so it's a district-wide council. Well, it's a council of governments. It's basically different cities. I would be interested in taking that one on if you folks wouldn't mind. Yes.
I have a question, Mayor. The CWACT meeting, do those two meetings happen the same day but just different times?
Often.
That's lovely to
Yeah,
hear.
it was a huge challenge.
But so that it is different times. Is it like sequential or hours between or?
There were
CWAC.
frequent times when I was serving on the COG
Yeah.
that it was very challenging if I was trying to get to an ACT meeting.
Okay. I have been serving on that CWACT board. By the way, both of these COG, both of these are in Albany or alternatively in Toledo. There's a audio-visual set up in Toledo. However, anybody that thinks they might be interested, I would warn you that it doesn't work well in Toledo. The hearing's not good, all that. So I always went to Albany, and I don't mind going to Albany, but it's just not one of my favorite, I don't have much passion in that direction, so if there's somebody else that,
Which one is this?
that's the Area Commission on Transportation. And they do have input on the projects that ODOT does, some of which are in our area, so it is important for somebody to be there for sure. But I think somebody with maybe a little more road building, passion than I have would be better at it than me, so I'm just throwing that
Is it
out
in the
there.
evening, during the day? When is that?
No, it's in the evening. I think it's 5 to
So it's usually about
7.
5 to 7.
Yeah, it's a couple hours, 5 to 7, and they're pretty good about, their time.
It is, so there are a couple of these that, fundamentally, over the years, one of the most important things that I learned doing some of these meetings was it's important to be in the room.
Yes.
Especially these COG, the ACT is not COG, but it's run through the COG.
Right.
You can be in Toledo, but you're kind of disenfranchised from
Yeah.
the actual decision making.
They
So-
can't hear and we can't hear them.
Yeah, so really, the COG board meeting, well, right now it's on Zoom. So
It's on
not so
Zoom,
bad.
right?
Yeah, right.
But I think once they go back to formally meeting,
I will be at the meetings. in
they,
Albany.
they are really critical to actually drive out there to the meetings.
Yep.
And
I will be at the meetings. If I'm on call, so. Anyway,
So do we want to do these one by one?
I guess
I'd be
so.
glad to make a motion to put you on
COG.
the COG one,
Okay.
if that's how you want to do it.
Should we do it on a motion, or is there, or just by consensus?
Usually it's just by volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
usually-
right.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take
All right,
COG.
so
Okay,
I mean,
let's
I
go
think
on.
some of these, if people move to be on them, they vote against themselves. so-
Yeah, right.
Okay, let's go down to, the next one is the solid waste district. You were on that one, Sue. weren't you?
That's one I've been on frequently over the years, and I'm back on it now after Harry quit. And I am interested in it and what they're doing. We have new leadership, and I think a lot's happening, so I would be glad to stay on that one.
Okay, Sue, you can stay on that. Okay, now, this was the transportation one.
Yeah,
which
this is the
just what we were
transportation
talking
one,
about.
right.
The one in Albany that meets every 2 months for a couple hours in
Right.
Albany. You want to try that one, Jerry? Okay, great.
Thank you, Jerry.
Waldport Library Board, a monthly meeting. It's a really I've actually gone to that. It's really interesting. So if somebody would like to, I don't think you're a member, you just sit in, kind of,
I'd be happy to do that.
ex officio. And when do they, do you have said, you have
We
said?
meet the second Tuesday of the month. We haven't been meeting since we've been closed.
Yeah.
I send out information of our statistics and other things that's going on, but we haven't met since we've closed.
Yeah.
But a couple of times.
And you're just there basically to find out if there's anything the city could do to help, and, you know. Waldport Parks and Trails Committee. I think you wanna?
Yeah, I've been on that. If someone really has a passion for that and wants to replace me, I would give it up.
No, I think you're good at it. But if anybody wants to serve on the Waldport Trails and Parks, I think that we could certainly have you on it too, if anybody wants to be on that committee,
Well,
right?
of course, anybody can show up and,
Anybody could show up and be
Right.
on this
Yeah, right.
committee because they're working on the parks and the trails, so.
Yeah, I have an interest in that,
Okay,
Great.
Jerry.
so.
Do you have a regular, sorry, do you have a regular meeting date for that, Sue?
what was, the other day was Tuesday, that was the first Tuesday of the month?
It'll be the second.
Second Tuesday, so it must be the second Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m.
Second Tuesday at 10 a.m.
And I think next month is the 9th,
Okay.
here at City Hall.
Okay, I'm on the local public safety coordinating
Oh, great.
council, but, wait, I just said I
Sound like you're saying.
Oh, we
But-
have another candidate, maybe.
am. But I would love for someone else to be on that. What it basically does is it's tied into like the law enforcement, the jail population, dealing with that and the juvenile population. They're going after grants and working to find housing for the, after housing for the inmates once they're released for prison, for their
Mayor, I
while.
would like to be on that committee.
Okay, Rick, I'll send you the information. There's a meeting coming up. I'll send it to you. Let me get your email after the meeting.
Right.
Once you get on their mailing list, by the way, you will never get lost.
My name is at places I didn't even know that existed.
Okay, chamber representative.
I'm on the board of the chamber, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be another,
Well, I'll be going to, for the arts group, I'll be going
Okay.
to the lunches if that's what that means, when lunches ever start again.
yeah, right.
And then I mentioned the Economic Development Alliance.
Which I
We'll have to get
crossed
that
off.
straightened out before we do anything, probably. Lincoln County Transit, I never got anybody to get back to me on that. I don't know what's going on with that.
Is that here locally?
Yeah.
In the
Lincoln
county at
yeah.
least, yeah.
I'll do that.
All right.
Okay.
Get that
Very
set up.
good. And then the Waldport Heritage Museum. Do we need someone on that?
So this is the new board
Right.
that will be
Okay.
established by the acceptance of the ordinance.
Proposed. Okay.
We will have one staff member, Rita, as the ex officio member from the staff. One council member would be assigned, and then the 5 other members would be members of the public. And again, right now, that will be offered to the current board of the LC Historical and Genealogical Society. I assume that they will all accept, but they may look at this as an opportunity to maybe take some time away. So there may be other members of the public that need to be assessed. This one will have a fair bit of work at the beginning because you have to adopt bylaws and essentially, you're creating kind of the structure under which some of that is going to operate. And, obviously we're going to staff that, set it up and help as we can so that it's not incumbent on this group to create brand new rules. But I think it'd be a very interesting committee.
Who's on the board now?
Well, right now it's Pauline as president, myself, Nancy Edwards, Bob Bodel,
Russell.
Chip, yeah,
Russell.
Chip,
Russell.
and Kelly. And, Nancy Edwards and Kelly. There's 6 of us. Yeah.
And so Colleen will be now staffing it. Rita will be there as the staff representative.
So there's openings already, or,
No, it should be 5 to 5 right now.
okay. Okay.
if we'd done the math correctly, which I think we did. I think we did.
Is that right?
What's that?
There were 7 of us, and now there'd be 5.
I can't hear you.
There were 7 of us, and now there'd be 5, because you and I would not be.
On the board,
members.
right.
So there's Nancy, Bob, Kelly,
Chip.
Chip. Oh, I think we do have a vacancy now.
Oh, there was all 6 of us.
So
Yeah,
yes, there
so
may
now-
be a vacancy.
So there's a vacancy, okay.
Without belaboring it, there may be a vacancy.
Well, that would be the city council member though, would it not?
No, that's
No.
still,
Okay,
so
but that's
this is
plus
a board of
5. Okay.
7, so we
Okay.
still need a city council member.
Friday is our meeting.
Right.
So. Anybody?
Can we appoint Heidi to that?
You absolutely can.
Kelly,
Yeah.
Kelly.
Okay.
So you absolutely
Did-
can, and then she can decline and we'll figure it out.
Did I lose something, I hope?
Did you lose something?
Yeah, did I lose, yes, I did. I lost CWACT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if Heidi doesn't want to do the museum, I will offer to do that one.
Okay. Sounds good. Excellent. Thank you, people.
So the ordinance.
Okay, the ordinance. Do I have to read the ordinance? I forget. No.
By title,
By title only?
twice.
Twice. Thank you. This is ordinance number 776, an ordinance amending the Waldport Museum Municipal Code by adding chapter 2.22 relating to the Waldport Heritage Museum. An ordinance amending the Waldport Municipal Code by adding chapter 2.22 relating to the Waldport Heritage Museum. Okay, do I have a motion to, God, this mask, this is horrible. I didn't realize how horrible this is. Do you have a motion to approve this ordinance, or,
I motion to approve this ordinance.
okay, do I have a
I second
second?
I second
Okay,
moving.
I have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. Motion is approved. Okay, moving on down, we're going to go to the budget schedule. All right.
So with the appointment of Councillor Booth, we are going to need at least one, and we need to confirm all of these folks still want to be on the budget committee, but we will need to, flesh that out. So we will be bringing to you confirmation of the budget committee at the February meeting, so that they can be appointed. Because we have to have equal number of citizens to council members on the committee. And by the way, you're all on the budget committee. The approach that I was proposing to the council for their approval this year is a little bit different than we've done it in the past. In the past, historically, when staff has generated the budget, there has been a single goals workshop, usually in the February timeframe, and then no other kind of feedback until a late April, early May budget meeting that generally used to go quite a long time and historically now has been going a shorter time. And that was the last opportunity and really the only input of the budget committee on the budget, and then it went to council subsequently and was done. There were feelings that there wasn't a lot of opportunity to make decisions, that staff kind of had got to make the decisions for the council in terms of what the priorities were. So I have tried to create a new mechanism by which there's a little bit more informed consent, if you will. The first piece would be a meet and greet, a council workshop in late January, that we'd be able to talk about being on the council. We do some new council member education, and then we would do kind of a goal reset and strategic planning for the city of it, talking about what our priorities are going to be over the next couple years, the next year, next 5 years, And that would allow us to set some deliverables for that goal meeting in February. The most important thing is it would allow me to come back in February with costs of some of the different priorities that could then be, the council could then say, okay, we see what these costs are, let's try to budget and prioritize X, without making a budgetary decision, obviously, because that has to be left to the budgetary committee. But this allows the council to go in with some information about, do I want to build a playground, or do I want to fix this road, or do I want to prioritize this trail, and understanding what some of those costs are. Subsequent to that then would be a series of budget meetings that's part of the formally adopted budget schedule. And that gives you timelines of when we would start moving through and produce the budget and start holding different budget meetings. And there would be 3, instead of historically the 1, there would actually be 3, where we would focus on different and distinct portions of the city's budget, so that A, we can be a little bit more in depth, B, so that staff specifically, and Scott, you want to stand up and introduce yourself really fast?
I'm Scott Angry, Public Works Director, City of Waldport.
And Colleen, you want to do the same? I think they all know who you are, but just
Colleen Nickerson, President of the Elsie Historical and Genealogical Society that manages the museum.
and she's now our museum staff.
On the city.
So I think we titled you Museum Curator, I think was your official. Museum Curator is now your official title. We're still figuring a lot of this out. It will make a lot more sense in about 6 months at the museum. But we'd essentially have thematic meetings so that we could have very specific conversations at those meetings. And talking about how the different priorities that you laid out in the goals meetings integrated into the budget, and how we would move forward to try to afford them, and or how we could look at longer strategic goals in terms of the city's priorities and major funding sources that might be involved. I say that because, as an example, we have quite a bit of work on our water master plan, or our water facilities plan, as Scott's been trying to correct me, and our wastewater facilities plan. These are going to be in the millions of dollars worth of work, and we are going to have to find a way to fund those. And that would also allow us to do the same with the library, parks, and tourism and community budgets. And then finally, the general administration budget, the planning budget, public safety, and then close out the overall budget with all those pieces together. So it is quite a bit more meetings than we've had in the past. The hope is that they won't be as long, but it will allow a lot more discussion, I believe, and address some of the previous council concerns over the ability to have input, the ability to make corrections, the ability to dive a little bit deeper into different aspects of the budget and really understand. We're also going through a pretty significant overhaul on what the budget presentation is going to look like this year. I just downloaded today I guess there's a budgetary award guide that they submit that's out there for budgets, and it creates a list of best practices. And so I'm really going to try to target a lot of these best practices and how the budgets are done, because it creates a lot of openness and transparency in public understanding and yourselves understanding where these numbers come from, how we get them, how to read them, and how to, what it makes sense and what the long-term ramifications are. Because there are, the most significant trouble a city can get in is fundamentally not balancing their budget. And we've done a very good job thus far, I believe, and we want to continue that, even if it means sometimes that things that we really desperately want are still just out of our reach financially. So, but most importantly, this would get the budget out such that we would have a special council meeting for the budget in May after our original council meeting, and adopt the budget a little bit earlier than we have historically. And that gives us an opportunity to come back if there are issues in June, and if we've hit a stumbling block, it gives us more flexibility. Often we'd get to the budget in June and it was a kind of a do or die proposition. We have to do it because the budget's due at the end of the month.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan. So you, plus I like this plan, since we have so many new faces, that to have this council workshop in late January, I think is a perfect idea too.
So the two outcomes that I need from this are confirmations of the dates for the workshops and the goal setting. I've suggested some dates. That doesn't mean they're the best dates for it, but I tried to pick times and dates that would work. And then I need a motion and approval of the proposed budget schedule.
Okay. Do the dates January 23rd or January 30th work better for anybody, or?
Those are both on Saturday.
Saturday.
Those are both
Yeah.
on Saturdays.
We giving
Saturday,
up from
yeah.
10 to 3?
10 to 3, yeah.
The 23rd would work better in my schedule, but either one would work.
Same here.
23rd?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll say January 23rd from 10 to 3. It's military time, I tell you.
Yeah, right.
And then a goals council meeting in late, oh, do we need to set that or now? Should we set that now too? Or just set that in
The
February?
goals council meeting?
In February.
It would be ideal if we could have a date. So a lot of this takes a lot of work to prepare.
Okay,
So
all right.
Dates are
Okay.
important for me.
Okay, February 25th at 2 p.m., would that be okay for
And
everyone?
that's a Thursday,
23rd.
25th.
25th.
February.
That's the
Oh,
second
okay.
meeting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
That works for
That
everybody?
works?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we need a motion to approve the budget schedule, proposed budget schedule for 2021, for fiscal year 2022.
Pardon me 1 second, Mayor, it's 25th at what time?
2 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve the budget schedule, which is this page of dates here?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, then we'll move to the budget status summary. No action is required.
So this is the beginning of some of the council education. One of the things that historically we've done a very good job of, and we've done a lousy job in the last 6 months, or even 9 months, is providing a regular budget summary in email to the council. We are really working hard to correct that. One of the challenges is really we only have an accountant half-time right now. So we are looking at some solutions to that problem. I'm hoping to bring to you in February a really very exciting possibility to solve this problem permanently, utilizing some new software. But in the meantime, what I wanted to do was provide the new council with a 6-month summary of where we were in this fiscal year, where we were in our budget, so that they could get a snapshot of, what issues there might be, and be able to ask any questions as they review it. You'll note that as I went through the budget, I kind of highlighted areas that I thought it was important to call attention to. The green were kind of good, the red were not good. But it was more just a way of saying, okay, here's where we are in some of the budget items, here are where places that we may go over. I absolutely know that we will need to do a supplemental budget because we've gotten new revenue sources in from CARES funding and potentially a USDA grant. I also know that there will be some areas that we end up dipping into contingency because we do have some expenses that were not anticipated when we created the budget. And I do apologize, I created the budget very quickly, and there were some things in May during the COVID shutdown that I just didn't anticipate. And that I did not fully understand. So we are going to go, for example, workers' compensation, we are going to be off on those numbers. And that's an additional cost that will have to come out of contingency. We're doing our best to keep other costs down, for example, but I do know that we're going to run into some issues with some of the associated moving costs to the new building. At the same token, I think we've gotten some extra revenue from other sources that have helped. And we'll talk a little bit more about where some of those came from. But overall, this is really just an opportunity after reading this, if you have any specific questions, or if you have any, very concrete concerns, this is an opportunity where I can, kind of address them. Yes, sir.
I went through the whole thing, and some of it is really obvious what it is, but there are a number of areas that I thought, well, what in the heck is this about? And so I just wonder, I have two questions. One is that going to be addressed in our workshop in some way?
Yes.
The other thing that, it seems to me it might be helpful to have with each budget category that is not obvious. I mean, when it's public works, you know basically what that's all about. But there are several of these things that could stand a very brief narrative of explanation of what this is all about in this category. Just to define the category in simple layman's terms so that people could understand it, even if they saw it for the first time, without any background knowledge.
You're going to really love our new budget sheets then. I am.
That's probably a best practice.
I am really working to make this so that anybody, even without, a business degree, can actually pick this up and look at it and really understand it. And that includes going through and renaming quite a few of the funds that have very specific and obscure names,
right,
to more reflectively what they actually are. It will be a pretty major budget overhaul right now, in terms of what the budget sheets are going to start looking like. And meeting both the state requirements and really conforming with best practices that make it readable by a layperson. Because it's not, historically it has not been.
Good.
I have a number of questions, but if it's all right, I'm sure nobody else wants to listen to this. So with your permission, I would like to meet with Ellen and you if you want to be there, and I just have a number of questions. A lot of it's just from historical, how it looks different from expected, and so I don't have any concerns other than we get on top of stuff soon, which I know you're working very hard to do. So as far as any concerns financially, I don't have, but I do have a number of questions.
And I would say I am not, other than I'm overall concerned that revenues continue because of COVID not to necessarily meet expectations, and specifically in the gas tax category. The road district is going to be a little lean this year. I do think that overall, I don't look at any of these numbers and have concerns this year. I do see disturbing trends that I don't know how we counter, because we want to accomplish certain things, and those certain things require staff.
And money.
But staff costs money,
Right.
and we do have to, I think we have to reorganize how we're doing some things, and that's what I'm hoping to bring to the budget committee and to yourselves, is a reorganization that really identifies and targets some of the areas where we are seeing, some growing concerns over the next few years, and how we're going to counter those. And that is really my hope, that that budgeting process will allow us to counter those and keep us in good shape.
And I suspect that one of the concerns you're looking at going forward, and I saw in the finances, is the amount of property taxes that's come in, which I think at this time of the year we're usually
I will
ahead.
say that some of those journal vouchers hadn't been done when this
Okay.
report was run.
Okay.
And so there's quite a bit more that's sitting there.
Yes.
That, I think if she were to run it today, for example,
Yeah.
that number would be substantially
great.
different.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hope.
Keeping
Me
fingers
too.
crossed.
Yeah, so far we, and I would just like to point out, so far we do actually have some numbers that are at historic highs. The marijuana state revenue sharing is substantial. And along with that, the transient lodging taxes, which everyone was so concerned about.
Right.
We've never had higher transient lodging
Right.
returns.
Right.
Now, that said, we are also seeing that a lot of people cannot travel by plane, they're not taking cruises. So a lot more people are actually traveling in state, a little closer to home, a little safer, if you will. And so we are seeing, pretty tremendous numbers there.
So it seems like there's a number of state sharing categories that aren't being funded. Does that only happen once a year, or don't we usually get quarterly?
So we get these in, and it's more about how we do the transfers and how they
Okay.
get bundled in.
Okay.
And this gets back to
Part of the process. Yeah.
refining the process
Yeah.
so that's done a little bit
Okay.
better. I mean, there are a lot of these numbers. There's a great example, actually, of how things are a little funky. When you look at, what is the one that's, if you look at how we bring in some of our income, and some of it is at 100%, and then the next one is at 20%, and they should be perfectly balanced. This is the water and wastewater income
Okay.
that comes in. And the reality is those are off simply because we haven't done the breakdown transfers. And we need to get a process going to do those because we've been doing them a little differently than we have in the
Okay,
past.
yeah, I wondered if it
when-
was a distribution thing.
When that happens, it will clear up and make perfect sense, and the
Right.
numbers combined are right in line with where we want to be. It's just because of how they're transferred in right now, they just look wrong.
Okay,
That will luckily fix itself.
thank you.
Very good. Okay, I guess the next item on the agenda is the safe routes to schools.
So, and this is where, given a different arrangement, I would actually have set up a PowerPoint here, and done some education. We will absolutely go through some education on this, when discussing, the goals and some city goals, so that we will have some bigger pictures. But right now, this is more of an opportunity to ask some questions. As you know, we got awarded $1.67 million to build sidewalks from the school towards the heart of town. We will reach roughly Salmon Street with that amount of money. We are hoping that through various means that we can save a few dollars here and there. And so we spoke with the engineer on Tuesday this week, and we're actually hoping that we're going to do an alternate, which is part of the bid package, from Salmon to Ball Street, which is Township 13. And we're also going to do an alternate from Salmon, or not from Salmon, I'm sorry, the Crestline intersection at Range down to Masters. Because the long-term goal is obviously we would love to get a sidewalk from Range down to Highway 101, and a sidewalk from Salmon, or from the school basically down to downtown. And so the goal is really how we accomplish those in the long term, and this is getting us, I want to say, about a third of the way there. It's a big grant, but it hits some of our biggest communities with young children. If you've ever done trick-or-treating on Crestline, you'll know that Township 13 and Ridgewood Acres, which is the Salmon Street, is very, very crowded. And so sidewalks along those roads, I think, are just essential safety pieces. But this should give us a way that kids, once they get to that spot, have a safe route to bike or to walk all the way to the school, and a flashing crossing at the school. Yes, sir.
I heard you say bike, and I had already been wanting to ask about that. This sidewalk is 10 feet, and it's to allow for both pedestrian and bicycle
Exactly.
traffic. Is that going to be separated in any way, or is it just kind of open?
So it's open right now.
Okay.
And
Like a line or anything?
yeah, well, we may do some different treatments, and I'm waiting to see kind of what the engineer talks about with looking at ODOT's rules. We really focused on having this being a multimodal pathway so that you can have multiple different access uses. It is quite wide. And really the goal there is it addresses a lot of those concerns about, okay, well, the bikes have to be on the road because there's not enough space on the sidewalk. I don't know if you've noticed that when the trash goes out, certainly where we do have sidewalks, it blocks the sidewalk, which is really frustrating to me. We went through a great rewrite of the Safe Routes plan. So we had originally submitted this in 2018. the sidewalk was actually on the western side, which was right along a lot of the homes. When I looked at that, it realized that we were going to have driveway intersections every 20, 30 feet. And so we were going to build a lot more driveway sidewalks than sidewalks. By moving it to the other side, we have a nearly uninterrupted sidewalk along the entire route. It will be a lot safer, and it should allow, basically for a great running path, a great biking path without a lot of issues. We still have some issues to work out with county in terms of that road and potential ownership, and I'll bring those to you at the next meeting. And we still have some decisions to be made as we do the design, but.
Will the area where the sidewalk sits require widening the road a bit and cutting into the woods?
It's actually very fortunate. The area where the sidewalk sits has already somewhat been cleared by the county to provide some space. The downside is they cleared it and then people started parking there because it was now a flat space off of the road. So this will eliminate that other side of the street parking, but it will allow for a nice, safe walkway, which is really the target.
So it won't need any further widening?
It will not need any further widening. We are in discussions with the different property owners. One is Mr. Painter, who indicated that he would be amenable to an easement space along there, because we may have to build a little bit of retaining or sloped securing, because there are some places where the road ends and it gets pretty steep, and the sidewalk's gonna be right at that edge, and
Right.
we might just need to widen it out a little bit. But he was very willing to be accommodating there, and I really do appreciate his willingness. The last piece, and we'll talk more about this at the goals session, is there may be an opportunity for us to do some, to put and extend a sewer line down a good portion of the space that we're working, depending on whether we save some costs in other ways. That has been a long-term council goal, to get the sewer closer to the industrial park. I'm reaching out to the owners of some of the lots and the dolls up at the industrial park and having a discussion, because I think we can get, a third of the way to their property or 2/3 of the way to their property for relatively cheap, because we're already doing the work. And it gives them an opportunity to maybe step in and get it the rest of the way for a lot less than I think our original project for the sewer up there was 4.5 million. And we're looking at, less than 1/10 of that to do the part of the line that we're talking about now. So this is really an opportune time to do stuff, if you're gonna do it on that road, to do it. And then we'll talk with the county about what some of the options are as well. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to is having a conversation with ODOT. Because of the schools and because of the speed and traffic up there, this is also an opportunity maybe to do some traffic control in the same space that would prevent the kind of 60-mile-per-hour blowing past the school, which has historically been a problem. So.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, move on to the Lincoln County Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. Which we just need to approve.
This is somewhat of a formality. This is a process that starts itself every 5 years. You're coming in at the end of the process in a way. It will begin again. I would not spend too much time worrying that a specific concern maybe was a little lower than it should be. I frankly think that the wildfire issue is a little poorly rated in this one, considering what we experienced this last year. So I do think that in the next round, it will be important to vocalize some of these concerns again.
Mayor, I have a question about the participation. It says that we've all participated. Who from the city has participated on our behalf?
My understanding is that the former city manager and the public works director were instrumental in helping put this together.
That was all I want to know.
Okay. Okay, this is resolution 1266. Do I need to read it? I forget to read it.
I move that I move that we accept resolution, or that we adopt resolution 1266.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor of adopting resolution 1266, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Next is the joint meeting request with Lincoln County Commissioners. Seems like they want to meet in June. They canceled this last year, which is fine. 7th, 21st, or 28th.
Those are all Mondays.
And our meeting would be probably the, is that 21st?
7, what, the 10th?
I think the 11th?
Ours is the
11th, yeah.
11th. Do we want to do before or after our meeting?
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Oh, it's a go-to meeting. Okay, I didn't even read that part. Okay.
That sounds like the 7th.
7th, you want to do the 7th, everyone? All right.
And we'll let them
We'll
know.
let them know. Very good, that was easy. Committee reports, Parks and Trails. Nothing? Okay.
We did not meet this month, so there's
All
no
right,
report.
that's fine. City managers report.
Before that, we do have from the solid waste
Oh, yeah, the
district.
solid waste,
And
yeah.
there's several things in there that, there's interest from the other members of the SWAC to pursue three different things. One is that we had a presentation by the same harm group that came several months ago, but this was specifically on sharps disposal. And so there was, they did quite a presentation, and so I think there's going to be some work going forward for the ability to create more places where people can get rid of their sharps so that they don't end up hurting people. The main thing. Another one is kind of an initiative out of the city of Beaverton, and I think Lincoln City is also working on this, as well as Newport, is are we interested in moving forward on any kind of trying to get rid of single-use plastics, so things that are just used once and then end up being trashed. And I don't know what the tenor of this new council is going to be as far as sustainability and environmental things, so that's why I'm throwing some of these out. Also because I'm on that committee, and if, we just are not interested, then I won't, pursue, I won't spend a lot of time on those, whatever my own personal things are. And the third one is that both, I think Newport has already had what they call organics pickup on trash days. They've been doing that, I think, for about a year now. I think they were able to come up with a plan. First of all, people could opt out, and they've been able to figure, kind of like they did with us with the branches and stuff, where it was a very small increase, and yet we could get that extra service. So they've worked out something very similar to that for the organics. Lincoln City's also getting ready to start that service. So that, that means that food waste can be added to what gets picked up at the trash, at the curbside. So those are three different things that are happening with solid waste, and there's interest being generated, and there's some subcommittees being formed to work on some of these, and I would be glad to carry our interest, if we have any, forward to the committee. So I will open it up for comment.
I think the idea of organics mixed with yard waste works very well. Where I live for the last 20-some years, that was the setup, and it seems like it would save in the amount of sewage, for example.
Right.
I just think it's a better way to handle things.
Right. I don't know, Scott.
Environmentally better.
Yeah, Scott, do you have any comment on what implications there might be on our sewage system if a lot of people didn't put stuff down the garbage disposal anymore? Would it be a plus or a minus?
That's a good question. So, it would impact the organics, but it may not be noticeable.
Okay.
So there could be a substantial decrease in what they call biochemical oxygen demand of the plant, which is microorganisms eating the bug and consuming air.
Right.
Which the less impact I have on that is the less money it costs for electricity to run the plant. But to operate the plant, it needs food, and so it could impact the amount of food coming in, bugs are eating, which feeds the bugs. So I think really, to really answer your question, we'd have to actually pilot it and see if it actually makes a difference.
Okay. And maybe there may be information out there that other communities have noticed, differences when, maybe even Newport, I don't know, because they've been doing it about a year now, and I don't know what difference, if any, they've detected in their plant. But it was just a question. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Oh, no, it's okay. There's some communities with high load differences in different times of years based on tourism.
Right.
Will feed sugars in replacement for that. But we don't usually have that problem with our system. We don't have an influx. So we do have more food and less food times, but I don't think it would make a difference on the plant too much.
Okay.
Nobody could see it.
Great.
Has Newport noticed any problem with wildlife by starting that? Like, we did this when I lived in Portland and it wasn't
Yeah.
a problem, but like, I have animals a lot in my backyard now.
Yeah, right.
So without it being picked up weekly, would that cause a problem with that?
So that's a good question to take back to the committee is, what is that? Has there been anything like that? Because obviously we do have wildlife.
I'm trying not to laugh.
Okay.
Any other concerns or questions, or sounds like a good idea, sounds like a horrible idea?
What are they going to do with the single-use plastics you mentioned? What are they talking about?
I think what Lincoln City is working on is banning single-use plastics,
How
which
can
is
they do that?
basically, well, I mean, we did it before COVID.
Oh, you mean like the bags?
Like a bag,
Oh,
that
okay.
you just use once.
Not the bags?
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Okay.
But with COVID, they've taken that away. Like,
Yeah,
how is,
right.
would
So-
they wait until everything's back to normal to re-implement
I
that,
would
or
assume so, is because right now, I think the reason they went back to it is because
they don't want people
Yeah,
dirty
well, there
bags?
wasn't,
More
there also
safety,
wasn't the availability of
Yeah.
the replacement bag, so.
Okay.
All right, I will.
Sounds good. All right, city manager's report.
Thank you very much. So, obviously, this is going to be a little awkward. Some of these things were in the December report, so if the verbiage seems odd, I do apologize. For example, the interpretive center. We were seeing some significant damage of the homeless activity in front of there. We spoke to the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. We got kind of some folks to move on. We are going to put up some cameras to be able to monitor that a little bit better. We did the work in the interpretive center, putting up the shielding. J. Morris Construction took care of that for us. So that's actually already been done. It was very affordable and paid for out of CARES funds. So when we do get an opportunity to open up, we will have some shielding there and it will be a little safer. Again, we're probably not going to be looking at anything earlier than spring since we still have to move the museum over. I should point out, and I do want to apologize, I did not get the request RFP for the former museum building done for this meeting.
Oh, that's okay.
And I honestly, I prioritized it knowing that the museum wasn't ready to move out yet. That we
No
still had
rush.
some work to do there. So
Plenty on your
that'll
plate.
time a little bit later.
You have plenty on your plate.
Wave has opened their store and are hooking people up readily. I would also point out that we are seeing Pioneer actually hooking some people up. It's a little bit more limited based on where they have existing installations. But we are becoming very quickly one of the best connected cities on the Oregon coast by a huge margin, which is pretty enjoyable to tell some of my former mayor colleagues. We have replaced the phone systems across the board and are in the process of replacing the phones in some of like the library and public works are next. This has made a huge difference. When you call me now, I don't cut off after 3 minutes for no particular reason. So we're very happy with the new system. And it will have a net decrease in cost, believe it or not, which is fantastic.
Excellent.
It is all network based. It is an IP phone system, but by going through Pioneer, we were able to keep our existing numbers, unlike the change that we did the last time we did an IP phone system here. We were able to retain all of our numbers, and our phone trees are set up now so that you, when this is all done, you can call the main number and you'll be able to get to any of the departments in the city. So it should work really well. Obviously, we did the museum work today, and that's taken care of. We got we got the arts grants, and this is the ODOT safety grant. It had nothing to do with art, but they named it really unfortunately. But we did get that submitted. I am optimistic in that it's a very compelling grant. We had good crash safety data. I am pessimistic in that they require it to be about $500,000, and we couldn't get it higher than about $230,000 without getting into kind of some silly safety stuff that ODOT was never going to go for. So we're hoping that it gets combined with something else in the county, and that makes it more compelling, or we're hoping that maybe ODOT just makes an exception and grants it to us. But the ODOT actually did the work for us on this grant in a lot of ways. So I think it's a compelling grant. I just don't know if it'll materialize. But it will just create some safety dollars that are spent up on Range and Crestline. I really did push very hard to try to get an application downtown on the 101 corridor. It just we don't have the crash data down there that would support the flashing crossing or anything else like that. So still looking at that because that's long been a priority. I'm just going to have to look at some other avenues for funding for that. Holiday lighting, this we did get done, but I do apologize. It was just not on my radar and it snuck up, and we've got it up now. Scott in Public Works did an amazing job of getting the lighting installed, even in some pretty nasty weather. It's held up pretty well. I don't know that the tree survived, or the tree at the community center survived, but everything else has held up pretty well. We are looking at a more permanent lighting solution so that we don't have to rent a lift truck and go up and down getting the lights installed, and that we may be able to install a permanent light solution on some of our buildings. That would allow us on, say, 4th of July to turn on the lights, red, white, and blue, or on Halloween to turn them orange, or, and I'll be bringing that to you as I figure out exactly how that works. Urban growth boundary, we'll talk about this a little bit, but we do have some water rights issues that, so DLCD has some specific rules, and the Water Resources Group has some specific rules about services outside of town. Technically, we're not supposed to be serving customers outside of town. If we have a water customer, they should be within our system. We do have quite a number of customers to our east that are outside of the city, outside of the urban growth boundary, but are being served by city water. At some point, we are going to have an issue with the amount of water rights that we have, because that water, by rule, is dedicated to those residents in the city of Waldport. So at some point, we do need to have conversations with the properties to the east about annexation, or at least inclusion in the urban growth boundary, so that if we were demanded of it, we could have them annexed in so that we could protect our water rights. So that's an important piece that's coming up, and we'll talk about it more kind of as the year evolves.
Okay. Are there any additional? Oh, I'm sorry.
Heidi's here.
Oh, Heidi's here. Oh, I didn't see her. Sorry. Hey, Commissioner, or Commissioner, Councilor Lambert, would you step forward? We're going to swear you in.
swear to right here.
Okay.
I, Heidi Lindbergh,
I, Heidi Lindbergh,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
will solemnly swear to support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the city charter of the city of Waldport,
the city charter of the city of Waldport,
and the laws thereof,
and the laws thereof,
and will faithfully and honorably
and faithfully and honorably
perform the duties of the office
perform the duties of the
of
office
city councilor,
of city councilor,
a position to which I have been elected
a position in which I have been elected
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. I need to have your signature right here. It's right there. And then you can take your seat. Oh, I'll go in first. Okay. And here we don't have a contact. Go ahead and, you know, I would read it.
Thank you.
Closing.
We're on the city manager's report.
So on number 8, the developer package, so one of the things that we've identified is speaking to some of the developers in town, what some of the roadblocks are. We are working diligently with the city planner. We are trying to come up with a package that we can offer. We can't waive fees, but if we can find a way to defer some of them such that they can start work without being $20,000 instantly in the hole, we feel that that will assuage some of their concerns and allow some more housing development to occur. And because that's one of the biggest obstacles that the developers have said is, you know, they would love to build a house on spec, but they can't spend $20,000 before they start moving dirt. So we're going to try to do something about that. We're looking at moving in the first 2 months of the new year. We're actually looking at potentially moving starting next week to the new city hall. And I'd like to offer anybody an opportunity, if they want to, get a tour of the new facility. It is beautifully done. We're really happy with the end result. And I believe if the inspection goes as well as we hope next Tuesday, on Wednesday, I think my staff are just going to mutiny and start moving their stuff over there very quickly because they're excited about being in that space. And then, you know, along with Ms. Campbell's family, we will be doing a dedication for Mark for the building at an appropriate later date. I do know that she's got some interest in bringing some family down from elsewhere, and it'd be nice to have a gathering where we could actually have a gathering. So. We do have a new video system. It's in a box in my office right now, but the hope is that we can get that deployed in the new building and that it will be relatively trivial to broadcast meetings from that location. I'm excited about that possibility. The page after, you'll notice that we've included a picture of the new website. We have engaged Civic Plus to start putting together a new website. I would say that all of the content you see on this page is just dummied up right now. This is the look and feel only. But this will get us started to then selecting photos, figuring out exactly what the different buttons will go to and do, and building some of the departmental pages. So we're very excited about this web refresh. Waziata, the trail at the
I wondered if this is being done to be fully compatible with mobile devices.
It is.
Okay.
That is one of the reasons that we engaged with Civic Plus. They have something on the order of 5,000 municipal websites nationwide, and they enable us to meet the ADA and the mobile device requirements just built into the system. So it will be very nice. I'm really looking forward to it. One of the things that I'm looking forward to is it enables us to very easily make changes to the website, and that will allow us to communicate better. The Waziata Trail has started to wash out. It's pretty treacherous right now, so we have closed it. I don't know how we're going to reopen it yet. We're going to have to look at that. It will be very costly to fix. A good portion of that area isn't actually in the city limits, So we're going to have to figure a plan out there and have a conversation with that community. We have, per council guidance, resumed water shutoffs. We had quite a number of them potentially, but we only actually ended up shutting off just a few. It is a hard thing to do. It's probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do as a city manager. Some very tough conversations, but we were definitely creating a situation for some homeowners where they were very concerned because their renters were had essentially not paid water bills, and often several way beyond COVID, and had just kind of avoided getting shut off because we stopped doing shutoffs. So, and then we are, and I mentioned this earlier, we're exploring some finance, budgeting, and transparency software. One of the very important things that we want to do is really give you all the ability to get in and look at the budget instead of having to wait for us to send you a financial report, be able to access it instantly and be able to see where we are. We also want to do some online budgeting with some tools that really creates quite a bit more transparency and allows citizens to really see and get a good feel for how that process works and how our budgeting works and where our resources go. It really is a paradigm shifter, and it is, in city manager circles, it is apparently the wave of the future. Everybody's kind of starting to move to these type of systems because it does allow it really does allow a much more open and transparent local government. And then I was hoping to actually have the website ready to go and announce it and have it. It will be very shortly, and we'll post it on social media and our webpage. We have a site that a company has set up for us that allows restaurants to log in and create their information and their open and close status, and then customers can go in and identify where they are and see what restaurants are open and closed. Especially with COVID, there's so many changes. It allows restaurants to quickly update so that is the Flounder open or closed, Sea Dog's open and closed, that type of information will be relatively available.
So is that on our city website is what you're saying?
Yeah, it
Okay.
will be posted on our city website, and then we'll announce also on Facebook, and we'll reach out to the different restaurants to try to get them to engage with it. And it looks relatively simple.
Great.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Any additional public comments from the audience? Hearing none, we'll move on to council comments and concerns. What this is the time for go around the council table, and if you have like any concerns or things you want to praise about the city or concerns about things going on in the city, this would be the time you share with us. We'll start with you, Susan, if there's anything you have.
Okay, one thing, well, I guess, first of all, we all have these little blue bags, and I just wanted to mention that the city of Philomath reached out to me when Mark was killed and extended their sympathies, and also invited me to their online council meeting and did a presentation. They've also created a kind of a, it's not exactly a banner, what would you call it, Dan?
It's kind of one of those.
Sits on a stand for Mark, and I imagine we will have it at the new location. And a company in town donated all these candles for all of us. So also the city of Harrisburg also sent a very lovely card to me and to all the council, and all of this was for all of us. That's why I'm mentioning it here. So it was just really special and heartwarming to see, people that we didn't even know to reach out to us. So I just wanted to mention that. The second item I have is that we've been notified by the people who provide the fireworks that they're expecting a shortage this year. So they want to know sometime by the end of January whether we are going to be ordering fireworks or not. The chamber has normally done this. I don't know if the chamber is going to say yay or nay. So I just thought I would throw it out to the council. I know people will complain if there aren't any, and yet we do live, very close to two different displays, and they are very expensive. It's about $15,000 a year that we spend on it, plus a lot of volunteer hours. So just kind of as a heads up, and if the council feels strongly one way or the other, I'd be glad to relay that.
Is there any data of how much money comes into the town when we do the fireworks show, like tourism-wise?
I know that Ray's has an exceptionally good day, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that
Grand Central, but.
although last year, there was great consternation when we didn't, because last year was COVID, of course, so we did not have them. And the town was still full of people on the 3rd and the 4th. I mean, because people come to the beach in the summer, whether it's the 3rd or 4th of July or not. So that again makes us say, do we really want to spend that much money, chamber money, on that one event when we could do a lot more for a lot more businesses, with that money. So that's the kind of the struggle that the chamber's going through, but.
You still have money saved up? I mean, I know throughout the whole year, they raise money. I think Scintilla does too, but
I don't know
all that
about-
money's still there?
We have, I think there's about 7,000 that we have toward the 15,000 at this point. Yeah, it's in a fund. So, anyway, just throwing it out.
Greg, do you have anything?
Well, I think I talked to Dan about it. I think there's some confusion with the sheriff's department on towing vehicles away. We had a situation where someone dumped a vehicle in an empty lot. The sheriff came out, they couldn't tag it because they said we had our own code enforcement. And so they were prohibited. Dan said that wasn't the case. So another deputy came and he concurred with Dan. So I think there's some communication problems inside the department on what they can and can't do.
And our deputy has indicated that they will be correcting that communication because he's like, I don't know why they wouldn't tag it.
Yeah. So now, it used to be if they didn't have budget, if they had a certain amount of budget for that kind of thing, and if they'd run out of budget, then they wouldn't tow. Has that been fixed?
So we haven't really run into that problem.
Okay, good.
I will say that we do have Martin v. Boise has been circulating. This is a court case in Idaho,
Okay.
And it does prohibit towing somebody. We cannot remove a vehicle if somebody's living in the vehicle. So that does prohibit us from some actions, and it's pretty specific. So we do have to, and I think you'll see communities start to pass measures that talk about car camping and the ramifications of these court cases that have come down.
And I think we're seeing a lot more of it, of these vehicles getting abandoned. I know I just seen another one on the other side of the school.
A green one?
Green one. It's been abandoned on the side of the road, and every day I drive by, they're starting to, now the hood's open. I think one of the tires is gone. It's just, you go up 34, they've got the same thing. So you're definitely seeing a major increase in people just dumping these vehicles.
I think the real danger is these property owners need to know that, most of these have VIN numbers and that you record and go back to the property owner. And even if you sell your vehicle, you need to fill out the form and have the documentation of who you sold it to. Otherwise, those costs of recovery end up back on you.
Yep.
So that car was dumped across the street from Greg and in a lot directly by my house. And I talked to the officer who came out, and he said he couldn't tow it, couldn't have it towed because it was on private property. And so I provided him with the name and phone number of the owner of the property, texted it to him. But you're saying that he was wrong, and that
The first officer that went up there apparently had provided some incorrect information because when our deputy Doug, Doug Hauntz,
well, it was
went
Doug
up there.
that I was talking to, yeah.
Was it that said he couldn't tow it? Because he came back and indicated that it wouldn't be a problem getting rid of it. So
Okay.
if you're ever having an issue like that, please just contact me, let me know, and I can be your conduit to the sheriff's office and get.
Okay.
And they were pretty quick. I mean, they were.
Yeah, it only took a couple of
As soon
days.
as I called them, because they dumped it there at like 2 o'clock, and by 11 it was still there. So I went over there and all the windows were down, radios stripped out, plates were taken. So I just took the VIN number and I called them, and within 20 minutes they were there checking the vehicle out, running it. They had some issues because it came back to nothing. They said it was a car lot, they sold it to someone else, but then the record is just empty. So but with the video, they knew exactly who dumped it, so.
There's a trailer on Crestline that was struck.
The horse trailer?
Yeah, the horse trailer has been there for a very long time to start with, but it was struck from behind, and it's disabled, and nothing's been done to fix it, and that's been going on for...
If you let me know these things, I
Okay.
can jump on them and try to get them taken care of fairly quickly.
Okay. Well, how would you like
Letting
me
you
to
know
do
right
that?
now.
Just, so there are two ways, actually, and this is really good. There are two ways. First, you can just send me an email. The second is we do have a code complaint portal on our website. If you go to our website and fill out a code complaint, I go through those, and when we do get a code complaint, we start action to try to address them, whether it's an abandoned vehicle or whether some other issues that we'll talk about in an executive session. We have had some pretty good success thus far in getting some kind of significant issues throughout the city addressed.
Yeah.
It is a process, so sometimes it doesn't happen instantly. But with stuff like if there's a horse trailer in front of somebody's house up there that's been damaged, we can go figure it out, and I'll talk to the deputy and we can figure out how we remove it.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Morris, do you have anything? You don't have to have any.
I do. Schools are looking to bring kids back in February 1st. No matter what the county matrix is, the governor says that's no longer applicable. So you'll see a lot more kids out on the streets, and be aware that we have to have the school speed zones again.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Townsend?
I think I've gotten all my little... Oh, I wanted to know, how soon we're going to be able to stick our noses in all the city properties and get familiar with what's out there.
So
I talked to you about that before, but I wouldn't
we
know
are
how
gonna
soon.
try to set up some tours. With COVID, we have to be a little careful, especially around the water and wastewater plants, but we will try to set up some tours of, say, the new city council building, the interpretive center, the library, the community center, and then we'll start talking about some of the public works facilities and when we can get out to those. And I'm really hoping that we kind of wait a little bit till the weather's a little bit better, and B, we get some vaccination cycles going through.
I get mine on Sunday.
Excellent. I think that will really help, and it allows
You
us.
think that'll be done this month, you think?
I would imagine it will not happen in January. We'll probably schedule those for either late February or early March. We'll probably actually try to schedule those around some of the workshops so that we can all talk about dates and times.
Okay. Anything else? Here,
Nope,
Commissioner?
that's it, thank you.
Counselor. Why am I calling you Commissioner? You're all elevated Commissioner.
Well, I was commissioner.
Counselor Lambert, anything for you?
Just how long do we have to hook up our emails? So you just sent me that today.
So those emails are active right now. So if anybody's sending email to those, and you all have an email account, well, Rick, you don't yet, but we'll get that taken care of. Those are active. So if you call Architect, they'll help you configure it on your computer or your phone, etc. But you will be getting the emails that I'm sending out to them now actively, and so you're not going to miss anything.
Okay.
And this is again really important. That email, that @waldport.org email, should be the only one that you use for council business. If it's personal business to the city, you can still use your own. We're having some issues with that, but I talked to Architect about that, and we're going to get that cleared away. But this should be your primary mechanism for communicating with myself about anything in the city. And that'll be really important because if there's a Freedom of Information Act request, you don't want, or a lawsuit, you don't want your personal computer confiscated. We can do the Freedom of Information Act or a lawsuit response via the system that we have in place. But if you're, say, using your personal Gmail account, and it's not, I'll periodically send email or have sent email before today, but from now on, you'll pretty much see me respond only to that address.
So did we get an email today from you about that?
You should have all been contacted by Architect, and I did send out the information, but I'll follow up because they said that they had said that they spoke to everybody. This is a little bit of a challenge. So.
I got the info from you. I didn't get anything from them unless I
Okay.
called them.
All right, so I will get you that information as well.
Okay.
You should have gotten a text message with the information.
No.
Okay, so I will follow up with you,
No
sir.
email, no text, no phone
Okay.
call, nothing.
All right.
So at least I'm not the only one. So.
Yeah. Well, and I do apologize. There were a number of messages from Councilor Lambert and a couple messages from Councilor Townsend that got caught in the email system that just weren't released. And so we're getting that cleared up. And so if you didn't hear back from me, that is why. I do apologize. We have a security system that protects the city, but sometimes it is a little overprotective. That's the best way to describe it. So I hope to get that corrected.
Cool.
All right, Councilor Booth, anything?
I don't have anything really. Off the top of my head, I did meet a gentleman that I have dealt with around our neighborhood, and he was quite adamant about our flood that we had from wave the other night, and it took water, and he wanted to know what was happening with that, and I said, no water anymore, down at the end of range. I live on range.
That was actually Southwest Lincoln water, not ours. Unfortunately, this has been an ongoing challenge where we have a lot of infrastructure in the ground. We market, but they're moving very quickly to deploy fiber. And unfortunately, we've had some of their crews that are a little less careful than we'd like them to be. We also now have a second company doing digging in the ground as well, Pioneer. And that's proven also to be the same challenge. Anytime you have a city, our infrastructure is quite old, and so it's been in the ground long before the GPS existed, let alone was used to map things into GIS. And so we know where things are. We do our best to put where things are, but there's always gremlins that we don't know about. There's a mysterious water main that they hit the other day that we didn't know existed because we found the other one about a block away where it should have been. It's things like that. So.
Well, that was just a comment that I had. The only other comment I had is when I did run for the position, and I'm glad that I'm here. The one thing that I did tell people is I wish to be the voice. So if I heard things, I would definitely bring it back to the city. If you live on Range Drive, at least two of us do, the raceway has seemed to be ramped up again majorly. I mean, I think the guy cleared yesterday, I think he cleared air for about 20 feet when he came over the hill. And I don't know what we got to do about that. I do serve with the Sheriff's Citizen Advisory Group, and I've already addressed that a little bit of what can we do. Because if schools are opening, as Jamie says, we have kids that are walking. And I'm concerned about that for where I live.
I went through there today and there was construction.
Everywhere.
So just have more construction and that's really good.
I like to get out of my yard, that's the only problem.
They just moved out of mine. You were welcome.
No, I'm very pleased to be here, and I'll do everything I can to be the best asset that I can be.
Okay, anything else, anyone? All right, we're going to move into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660-2H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. So we'll say goodbye, audience. Thank you for coming. It was nice to...